I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. Now, I know that you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome my special guest to the show today, Nora Simpson. Nora, welcome.
Thank you, Caroline. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited. Nora and I have been getting to know each other over the past several months, and we have several professional collaborations in the works, so I'm thrilled to have you on the show, Nora. Let me tell our listening audience today all about you. Nora Simpson is widely recognized as a business pioneer and the creator of the field of experiential neuroscience. Nora has successfully implemented her groundbreaking neuroscience-based business tools with more than 130 companies in 50-plus industries and over 10,000 individuals to create radical breakthroughs in revenue, profit, productivity, and fulfillment. She's the author of the newly released book, Get Ahead and Stay Ahead, Use the Secrets of Your Own Brain to Unleash Your Success at Work. And Nora, let's dive right in. What prompted you to write this book?
Well, Caroline, I had my own experience with having a really tough time in my career after a particularly difficult response to Hurricane Katrina, because I'm from New Orleans. And I ended up being fired from 3 jobs in 6 months. And even though prior to Katrina, I had been on a very successful career path, once I actually realized, I've got this, I've got this something, I'm not quite sure what it is, keeping me from success in this whole new experience of my life. Now that I'm recovering from this difficult time, it really forced me to completely reinvent and ultimately discover a whole new way of understanding my career and a whole new way of understanding how human beings relate to work. And that pointed me eventually to helping over 10,000 people at 140 companies now and over 60 industries. And because I have had the great opportunity to help so many people, I realized I wanted to share my story with people and share my tools with people, and that's how I came up with this book.
And I'm so grateful for your willingness to share your tools and your action steps, because you really do help all of us in the career world demystify those problems and help us lead more productive, satisfying, and gratifying lives and careers. But as we all know, we all bring more baggage to work than we realize. Why is that?
Well, it basically has to do with the way the nervous system is formed. When we're born, we are incredibly underdeveloped. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. It means that human beings, unlike basically the rest of the animal kingdom, acquire most of our strategies for survival and living in our world. We acquire those strategies after we're born, and we acquire them in interaction with the people and the situations of our environment throughout babyhood and childhood. And so babyhood and childhood become these incredibly powerful times of programming into our nervous system. So a baby is generating 700 brain connections per second. And we generate trillions and trillions of these brain connections over our lifetimes, but so many of them are being generated so rapidly throughout infancy and childhood that when we arrive in our work lives, we all have this set of binoculars through which we see the world, or I should say this set of glasses through which we see the world. And it's so deeply influenced by our childhood, so deeply influenced by what we saw our parents doing around work, by how we related to our teachers and our peers and our siblings and just all the people that we looked up to and all the things we became afraid of when we were little. And so all of that is coloring how we perceive the world, because we don't actually see the world as it is. It's far too big for us to perceive. We see the world as we are. We see the world as our programming tells us to see it. And so because of that, whenever we walk into a work environment, we only see a small percentage of of what's going on, and whatever percentage we see is going to be deeply influenced by what we've experienced in the past.
So, Nora, why is it that people often sabotage themselves at work, and admittedly, sometimes unknowingly?
Sure. Well, of course, everything in human life has many, many determining factors. So I can't give you one reason that all people sabotage, but I can give you two or three very powerful reasons that are usually, deeply responsible when we find ourselves sabotaging. So the first reason is that it's actually part of survival to stay in the middle of the pack, right? If you're too far in the back or you're too far in the front, you're a lot easier to pick off. You're a lot easier to get at if there's a predator, coming at you.
Right.
So believe it or not, our survival mechanism in our nervous system will resist growth, will resist high performance success, because that puts you a little too far ahead of the pack for the comfort of surviving in the wild. So that's a really important notion that we all have to grapple with, especially those of us who are motivated to grow and achieve in our careers, that there's just a natural biological resistance to, going beyond a kind of middle of the pack success level.
And there's always a pack, even in a small organization.
Oh, no question. No question. And of course, for all of us, this leads me to the second very important factor that I think defines career experience for a lot of people. All of us have a pack or a tribe that we originate with, which is our family.
Yeah.
So wherever our family ended up, wherever we observed our family operating, whether it was that, we come from a family where everybody worked really hard, but they only got so far because, there were just factors that they were dealing with that they couldn't overcome, or we come from a family where maybe people were a little lazier or a little less capable of delivering their talents in their own career life. So we start to worry that maybe it can't be done. Sometimes people come from families where, people are honestly just in a mindset of believing that wealth isn't for them. And we are so deeply influenced by what we've observed our parents doing and saying about work and money when we're children, that even if there's a pack in our work life today as adults that is a very positive, pro-success kind of tribe, if our tribe of origin had some sort of negative connection to success, as so many people do, that's another middle of the pack influence, another factor that sort of brings us into sabotage, because it can be really hard to feel like we're exceeding where our parents came from.
Wow. So, Nora, I want to segue a little bit, because one of the things that I love about the book is it is so relatable, and you tell some incredible stories, and I can just see myself with the audience, shaking their heads, nodding in agreement, saying, that's me. And I want to talk about the concept of the scary boss. We've all had them, and you have very strategically helped those scary bosses become better managers and leaders. And I know that our listeners out there, some of them have had those scary bosses too. So how do you do it? And what are some lessons that you can share with our listeners?
Sure. Well, my favorite story from the book, hands down, is the moment when I walked into a meeting with a boss that I had who was particularly scary, and she sat me down and basically said, "Nora, nobody likes you. You've got problems, and you need therapy."
Wow.
And the only thing,
no subtlety there.
Right? The only thing, that's right, no nuance, no subtlety. And the only thing I told myself at the time was, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
Hold it together, Nora.
So, hold it together. Do not cry in this woman's office. So I can really relate for people who are out there who've got difficult and frustrating bosses. What I found from my experience working with this woman, and from my experience working with, as you said, Caroline, some of the most difficult to please bosses out there, because oftentimes companies will hire me to work with difficult boss-employee dynamics within their companies. What I've found is that one of the most important things that people can remember about these quote-unquote scary bosses is that those bosses are very, very scared, not just scary. themselves.
Ah, interesting.
Right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like when you were a kid and you were passing the big scary dog behind the fence and your dad said, just remember, he's more afraid of you than you are of him.
Hmm.
It's exactly the same with a scary boss, because the truth is, all difficult behaviors from any human being on the planet come from the imperative to be defensive, to be protective, to defend from threat, to keep oneself safe, right? So we all have our defenses, we all have our safety valves, our safety mechanisms, but what we don't always realize is that when we're dealing with someone who really triggers our defenses, whatever they're doing to trigger us is probably coming from their own feeling of fear and their own feeling of threat. And if you can take it upon yourself, first and foremost, to understand that they are actually probably having a tougher time than you are when they're difficult with you in this way, and that they're the ones who are struggling, right? As much as we all think, oh gosh, I'm struggling, this is so hard for me, to have this person talk to me this way, to have this person, shout at me in front of other people, whatever it is. The truth is, when they're shouting, when they're speaking in withering tones, it's usually coming from their own discomfort and their own issues. And if you can begin to see their behavior as motivated by fear and motivated by threat, then the way to actually shape their behavior is to start seeking to bring safety to them and start asking yourself, what is it that this person needs to feel safe?
Nora, do you think that someone reading your book could launch into these strategies on their own, or do you advise that they work with you specifically, or work with a coach? It sounds daunting, right? To tackle this kind of behavioral change.
Sure. I mean, there's no question that the work is not easy. I like to say it's not easy, but it is very rewarding.
Mm.
From people I've known who have read the book, but who are not my clients who come to me for regular coaching sessions, I've been told by these other people that just reading the book and reaching out to friends and family and using some of the principles in the book to build out their own kind of private support network has led them to great breakthroughs, just really tremendous success. So that always warms my heart, because one of the reasons I wrote the book is that I know not everyone can afford my expensive coaching, you know, though, of course, I'm always delighted to have new clients.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been told that just reading the book has had a deep and profound impact on a lot of people and a lot of their attitudes and how they take these actions one day at a time, how they choose their approaches one piece at a time, for dealing with difficult people and negotiations and all the other pieces that I cover in my book. So that really warms my heart, to hear that people are getting a lot of value out of the experience of reading the book.
Well, and I have to say, as an additional endorsement, as a coach who works with a lot of executives and certainly many other leaders within the different ranks of organizations, your book is quite accessible and very much filled with practical wisdom and action steps that are applicable. So I encourage the audience to get the book and start with this amazing resource. And Nora's there at the ready if you need additional reinforcements. But Nora, let's talk about that. This is not just for the zany C-suite executive. This might be for a peer or a colleague who is more on your level of that hierarchical organizational ladder.
Definitely. The thing that I love to share about these tools is that they are accessible and reachable, from any position in an organization. So no matter whether you are the secretary in the organization or the janitor, or you're a middle manager, or you're the owner or the CEO, when you start to read this book and you start to apply these tools, you will find yourself being more effective, being more personally productive, being able to influence others to be more productive. And that's something that I just really love. And, Caroline, I'll put a plug in for the class that you and I have been collaborating on.
Sure.
Caroline has done this incredible work with me to create a video course that I do also offer on my website, but I'm really excited to be partnering with Indiana University's Alumni Association to also offer it through the Indiana University platform. It's called Breaking Through with Problem People at Work, and it offers very specific strategies for how to deal with difficult colleagues, difficult clients, difficult bosses, and even difficult employees. Because, of course, as we move up the ladder, we find that difficult people are everywhere in the organization, not just
Very
above us.
true. Right. Right. And Nora, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think, well, I know one of the things that I really value and appreciate about you is that you are giving people resources and tools. And the truth is, suffering is optional in our careers. And
Absolutely.
you have empowered people with what they need to find safe environments that work for them. But I'd love for you to tell a favorite story from the trenches, perhaps about a difficult boss who had a great transformation.
Absolutely. Well, it crosses my mind that I worked with a gentleman once who knew that he had an anger problem, and he was actually the owner of the company. And I have to say, I give him enormous credit that he brought me in part to kind of fix him, in his words.
So he was aware. Mm-hmm.
He knew he had the anger problem. And when I sat down and interviewed everyone else in his company, because it was a small company, and when I work with companies, I like to do a full survey of what's going on and hear from different perspectives how people see what's going on before I create the customized program that I create for each company. And everyone in the company said, "This guy is the problem."
Wow.
And other than this guy, everyone in the company also said, and his chief operations officer is also a huge problem. And when I came to him and said, every person in your company says your COO has a huge issue, and that the two of you create a lot of drama, and the relationship between the two of you is a real problem. What's up with that? He said, "Oh, no, work on me. That COO is a really good person. And it's going to be, I have so much respect and value for my COO. I get so much value from that COO. I have so much respect for my COO. Work on me, work on me." And what was interesting was that as I worked on him and as I worked with other people in the organization, even though everybody was human and everybody was flawed, the fact that they wanted to work on themselves was a huge boon to their progress. Like, things were moving forward. And the one person in the organization who did not want to work on herself was this chief operations officer.
So she was reticent. Wow.
She was really, really resistant. And what happened was she got angrier and angrier and more difficult as the rest of the company got better and healthier. And so there was a point where, she came to him and said that I was a huge problem in the company and that I was creating all these horrible problems. And because I know how to do this thing where I bring safety where I go, he asked her to tell me that. And so the three of us sat down and I said, I don't want to use her name, but I'll say, COO, please tell me what's going on. What is it that you feel is the problem? I'm really interested in learning what the issue is here. And she said, well, first of all, he, my boss, is still a horrible person and horrible to work with.
Wow.
And secondly, you have failed at fixing him. You were trying to make him better for me and it hasn't worked. And thirdly, I don't trust you. And she just kind of went on and on. And at a certain point, she said, these other people who work at the company tell me that you have said things about me behind my back. And I said, gee, they did? Well, I'm so glad you're telling me now. And how about all of us sit down together so that we can really work this stuff out? Because whatever it was that I said that they decided was me, telling tales out of school, I definitely want to take ownership and responsibility for that. I really, she was saying, oh, well, these people have said these horrible things about you, kind of to give me evidence of how bad I was. And I think she was just flabbergasted that I was so open and receptive to it. And at that moment, the big boss man, the CEO, realized that she was going to keep doing whatever she needed to do so that she could kind of keep making drama, because her priority was drama over everything else.
So, Nora, are some people just not coachable?
I mean, I don't want to say people aren't coachable. I think it has more to do with the chemistry of things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that woman was coachable by the people that she chose to have coach her. But I think at the end of the day, she just really didn't want to be working there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and and I don't think she had the willingness or the belief in her head that it was okay for her to quit for some reason, and I don't know why. But eventually, that CEO let her go, and at the same time, in letting her go, he revealed just how much he valued her, because he valued her in a way that I don't think she ever realized, sadly. Um, and it really led him to have one of these breakthrough moments. But after that, he was a different kind of leader and a different kind of boss for everyone in the company. And that was, several years ago, and I actually still work with them once a month, just for tune-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear from his employees still that he's made such an incredible departure in terms of his leadership skills, such incredible breakthroughs. He's obviously still human. He's still working on himself,
Sure.
but he's like a different person.
Well, and
And
I
it's really nice.
imagine that former CEO is thriving someplace else that was a better fit for her. So we wish her great success
Exactly.
as well.
Right. It's not, it's not the end of the world for the team to change.
Right,
It
right.
just means that sometimes, someone just isn't a good fit for an organization. And for the record, if I hadn't been fired from the 3 jobs I was fired from in those 6 months, I wouldn't have ended up where I am
Where you
today.
are
So
now.
I'm
Yes.
grateful that I was
Yeah,
fired,
I hear you. Thanks for your honesty. So, Nora, from your vantage point, what are some of the other issues that people are struggling with besides funky bosses, as it were?
Sure. Well, I think procrastination is a huge, huge problem for people. I've never met a human being living in the United States who doesn't have some fear around procrastination. Um, for the people I know who are very, very productive, they see procrastination as this like big scary dragon that they have to keep in a cage,
Right.
And for the people I know who wish they could be more productive, I think they see procrastination as maybe a fatal friend, like a fair weather friend who comes bringing fun and, internet surfing and, eating chocolate on, watching TV. And then suddenly, that friend has betrayed them as they're, staying up all night, finishing a project for work or something. So I think everybody has a complex relationship to it. And I'm so delighted that the book has so many tools for handling and dealing with procrastination in a way that hopefully feels really lighthearted, but also really effective. So that's one.
Okay.
And another one is, I think, perfectionism. I think that's one that gets to us at every level. I think perfectionism actually fuels procrastination, because I think that
It's analysis paralysis, right?
absolutely, and our brains will tell us, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all, or until I have this one issue resolved, I really can't do anything. And the truth is, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what, this is, by the way, if you just do this, if you follow this piece of advice that I'm about to give you, I promise you, you won't even need my book if you just follow this piece of advice, which is just take one action. Whatever
Mm.
it is you're resisting, just take one action, and you'll be led piece by piece to all the next actions that you need to get to. But it's just one action, and it's amazing how programmed we are not to do that. And so dealing with that perfectionism in ourselves, and then over and above that, dealing with that perfectionism in our bosses and in our employees, which is much more complex, can be a real challenge, but ultimately can be incredibly rewarding.
Excellent. So, Nora, tell us how we can buy your amazing book, Get Ahead and Stay Ahead. Use
Well,
the
I'm so
secrets.
glad you asked.
Yes, tell us about it. But go ahead and
Um,
repeat the title so everybody
Sure,
hears it
sorry. It's
again.
Get Ahead and Stay Ahead. Use the secrets of your own brain to unleash your success at work.
There we go.
And you can get it at my website, www.getaheadandstayahead.com. So that's getahead, A-N-D, stayahead.com. If you go to my website, you'll also find a number of free articles, as well as an opportunity to sign up for my free Success Tips newsletter, as well as some premium membership opportunities that give you access to a whole new level of tools that I've created that go with both the book and the video course that you and I are going to be sharing with the world, Caroline. So I think there's, the website is chock full of free resources. And if you want more than the free resources, it's got more for you there. And if you're just, if you're just on the fly and desperate to read this book, you can also find it on Amazon, Kindle, and iTunes.
Excellent, excellent. And you're also avid on LinkedIn and Facebook. Am I correct? I know we're connected, and I see you quite a bit. So
absolutely. And if you go on Facebook, you'll see a lot of photos of my newborn baby.
Yes,
who's about 5 months old,
who is adorable. I was thinking, I bet it's fascinating for you as a new mom to watch that developmental journey through your son.
It is so powerful. And I'll tell you, this is something that I don't talk about in the book as much as I will in the next one. But I can't tell you how many people I've coached who are also parents and who come to me after 2 or 3 or 5 sessions and say, Nora, this isn't just making an effect on the way that I run my business or on the way that I interact with my colleagues. It's making a huge effect on the way that I actually parent my children.
That's wonderful. That's got to be really gratifying.
It's so gratifying. And I very, very intensely, I really try to practice what I preach with my own kid. And so far, he seems like a really happy kid. So,
so far, so good.
I think it's okay.
I have every confidence it is. Nora Simpson, what a delight to have you on the show. And I do want to reiterate that your e-course is coming up in January, and we'll have information on my website about that as well as your website. So in addition to the book, you can participate in that wonderful online e-course. So I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with my listeners today, and I look forward to great things in 2016.
Likewise, Caroline. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nora. And I want to thank all of you for tuning into Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. And our show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. Leave a comment because I enjoy hearing what you have to say. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.